I am the great divine director, Manu of the seventh root race, and charged with the responsibility and the joy to cover the earth round with my consciousness as a blue flame that would hold the magnet of the divine direction for each son and daughter of God, so that you never need fret that you are far away from the help and assistance that you may require on your journey to galvanize the will of God, to discern the faculties that are at work in your own body, to have clear direction as to your destination, even if it is only short and temporal. It is nonetheless a requirement that you be on point. When you have challenges that do and yes will come up in your life that you must face, you can be assured that I, the great divine director, am close at hand. For you need only enter into the secret chamber of the heart and draw upon my blue flame of the will of the great I am for the earth, and know that your footsteps are sure, your direction is accurate, your consciousness is imbued with the will of God. Why is this so important? That I, the great divine director, would be in the constant state of the envelope of earth with my consciousness, my momentum of God direction. It is so that the seventh root race that is to come forth upon the earth must indeed have and will that force field, those families, the cultures and the lands, the governments in which to embody, so that they, in their purified consciousness, will not be drawn into the fetters of human consciousness. And there will be a greater acceleration toward the golden age by their presence. For you will have prepared the way. You will have developed within your enclaves golden age cultures, the mystic rose of the ecclesia, far and wide, where they may come, learn, be imbued with the light of God, not to find it misqualified at the first commingling with humanity, but held inviolate, as a golden age culture indeed should demand For yes, blessed hearts, for those that usher in a golden age, have the understanding and the responsibility to maintain the fullness of divine ideals that permeate the land, not merely in the spiritual high teaching that is disseminated and engaged by the devotees on those special events or their devotions, but in the mundane life, the day-to-day life that for many seem to pass by the outer consciousness at present, as though it meant nothing. After all, you were not at your altar. You were not engaged in placing your attention upon the presence that would come later. No, blessed hearts, the wise student on the path understands that those spiritual moments at the altar are to set the vibration, the God direction, and Christ's discernment for all of the other days, hours, and moments of their life. And thus they are never far removed from the hand of their God presence, having entree into their life. They are not sealed off from the ascended masters that would assist them, most assuredly the great divine director, for they have brought into their world such annoyances, aggravations, negativity, desecrations of God, that the perfection of God would not be allowed to remain in the same space. You work mightily, daily, to bring about in your consciousness a fertile ground for the Christ mind, to put aside those things that you know are harmful, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. And yet you find that you are still caught up in many of the habits that draw you back to that same state of being. Blessed ones, you have heard now from Himalaya, the Manu of the first root race, of the third root race, of the fourth root race, of the fifth and of the sixth, by Vayasvata Manu, by God and Goddess Meru. You have understood that in the bringing forth of each of the root races from the first to the seventh, there has been a requirement for the earth to fulfill the divine nature of the law. Yes, there were the victories early on in antiquity, where the first, second, and third root races ascended. They were held in the framework of consciousness that did not allow for any separation of God from their learning of these outer vehicles that they wore. They did not have the requirement to even have the densest of the physical apparatus that you now carry about. For their consciousness was able to operate the law sufficiently from the memory body as that Christ vehicle of consciousness you have come to know as the Holy Christ Presence. And as you have been taught by Himalaya, it was necessary to have more of the power of divine direction come forth as the masculine alpha ray, so that it could hold the balance for what was about to occur. For do you think for one moment that Earth has come to the state that it has found itself without the foreknowledge of cosmic beings, studying the propensities of the human consciousness from afar, gathering together in their enclaves to determine what is the next cycle, the next dispensation, the next opportunity that the earth requires? With the coming of Lord Himalaya, it was already known that a greater force of power of the will of God would be required. Understanding, blessed ones, that each of you find yourself in certain circumstances having to reflect upon your own life and wondering how you will shift and change from the habits and the old momentums that you carry around with you. And you discover that it is with the attention on the powerhouse of God that will break the cycle for the onrush of the will of God to displace those habits and momentums that heretofore have kept you in a vice and unable to move or to expand the flame upon the altar of your heart. And in that will of God, you are then able to begin the process of, yes, even the subtlest of change that is required. For you have a shield of protection. And amalgamated with that shield that you have invoked from your own God presence, you discover that there is a great canopy of the blue flame of the will of God, of great divine direction from my heart, that is easily accessed at those points when you require a greater infusion with God direction. How glorious it is to have the understanding within your conscious grasp what you can do to change life. If your life could not be changed, why do you suppose we would ever have a concerted effort of the entire spirit of the Brotherhood of Light come and inaugurate dispensation after dispensation, release and charge of light, teaching and instruction, if there was not the possibility of the writing of the course, so that you would not find yourself in some deep abyss with your efforts and striving, but you would find yourself at the pinnacle point of the mountaintop experience that your presence had desired for you in this lifetime. You would have a greater awareness of the presence of God when you are approached by any of the emissaries of God. Your heart would leap in joy, and you would be receptive to that touch, that charge, that consciousness. And in doing so, you would know what it means to have a prepared chalice. How sad it would be to have missed that opportunity, to have it pass you by unnoticed, not having the ability to internalize that visitation, that charge of light, that teaching, so that you could draw it forth to your outer consciousness at any given time when the need required. Do you suppose that the virtue that you must master of sacrifice is merely because you are to be empty and give until there is nothing left, not one erg of energy of your being? No, blessed hearts, that is not the meaning of sacrifice. It is when you are filled with this presence of God and are able to be in that flow of God, whereby that flow is steady and sure, that moves through your service, the divine intent of your life stream, the givingness that you will give, the needs that you will fill. That is why, blessed ones, you must always understand how to fill the chalice. Should it begin to wane with the power of God, that is that will that you come to know when you are focused upon the first ray, when you are focused upon the Manu Himalaya, when that comes into your chalice, you understand what it means to be fortified and prepared for whatever eventuality comes your way. When you have honed illumination's flame sufficient to blaze within your crown, is it not a great comfort to have Christ's discrimination flood to your mind on the instant, that you can count on? You need not wring your hands or have great fear or doubt that you are making a wise decision, for you understand how this action of God feels, is received, is activated by your own heart flame. You do not question it, for you know. For you have become a student of your own vehicles of consciousness, and you have prepared your consciousness to be receptive to the mind of God, because you have been attentive to the ascended and cosmic beings. You know what it means to stand near the flame of God and have that flame release a charge of teaching and instruction and light as the body consciousness of that one addressing, and you receive the sign. You have the fabric of the consciousness of your own Holy Christ presence, ratifying within you the decision and the discerning faculty that is required. So when you have become a student of your own heart's love as sacrifice, your own heart's wisdom as illumination, and your own heart's will of God as power, then, blessed ones, you are ready to begin the alchemies that are required of your vehicles of consciousness to bring to bear those actions that your presence desires of you in this embodiment. And it is not enough to merely think it and expect that that is sufficient to the day. There are ideas abounding in the earth that go unnoticed, unutilized, unacted upon, that diminish and go back into the universal sea of life. Perhaps they will come again, or perhaps it will be in a different form. It matters not. That cycle was lost. What counts is putting into action those ideas of the mind of God that are drawn forth by the God direction of your mighty I Am presence, so that you might have a sure direction. You will not take the long side reel adventure, not allowing you to be at the appointed hour in your life when you were intended to be finished with that lesson, having mastered a particular talent or engagement with your mighty I Am presence, so that you were prepared for just that moment that would come, that you would step to the fore, that you would have the answer, the word, the protection, the discerning faculties to assist another. Instead, you would be wise to grasp the hand of the ascended and cosmic beings, of whomever you are closest to, but most especially one that will transfer the assistance to you when necessary to get over the human traits that oftentimes creep in the night when one is not expecting to receive that charge that is coming of the riptides of human thought and feeling that take them from center. Yes, you are to rest in the comfort flame of your holy Christ presence. But when there is a charge of light sufficient within your vehicles of consciousness, that rest is your protection. That rest is still emanating the light. It is charged sufficiently to go to and fro through your chakras with your holy Christ presence, with the mighty I Am presence, as the rays of God consciousness go forth from your mighty I Am that circle around you and protect you. But if you have not forged this ground, if you have not prepared that way, then it is most difficult and nigh impossible to hold in abeyance the incursion into your life by that which should be shunned at all cost. As you place your attention upon your own vehicles of consciousness to discover what changes must come about, you will want to look at your constancy of devotions. Constancy as the fifth secret ray you have come to know, as that unchanging, immutable constant of cosmic law that you can count on. If you desire to be in the figure-8 flow with your mighty I Am presence, does it not stand to reason that you would establish sufficient constancy in your outer vehicles to hold fast to that which is in the fullness of your mighty I Am presence? Cosmic law embodied. These outer vehicles are to be just that, the vehicle of the Most High. For you to give expression to the presence of God. But if the presence of God cannot count on the constancy of readiness, then, blessed ones, what is your presence to do? Do you think that your presence will merely go around your outer vehicles and perform miracles for you, and then you will merely stumble into them? Nay, that is not so. Your presence will want and does work through these vehicles to perform every task that brings about the so-called miracles, the abundance of life, the clarity of mind, the harmony and the peace, so that the charge of God power can be lowered into your emotional body, so that you might have a wellspring of love to imbue life in all of your service, all of your devotions. You, blessed hearts, have a glorious opportunity to be God where you are, for this is the practice ground where you can hone and fashion the talents, the uniqueness, forging the opportunities to bring to bear upon the screen of life the desires of the heart of your God presence, to hone them, fashion them, refine them, until they are a worthy offering to the Most High. And when you have accomplished these tasks, and your holy Christ presence gives the nod and says, "Yes, thou good and faithful servant, you have completed the task at hand," then you are ready to move to the next initiation and cycle. When that cycle comes forth in the fullness of time, you will draw upon those early lessons. Many of you have probably already understood this to be the case. You will have left your mark upon the screen of life, had the fullness of your presence come into manifestation in one form or another. That presence that has established a charge of light that is responsive to the keynote action of the causal body of your victories and your talents, of the amalgamation of those many victories of many lifetimes. And you will be the one that is crowned with the laurel wreath of victory when you ascend. Blessed hearts, it is my great joy as a service to life that I can radiate the fullness of God direction. Not that I am imparting to you my God direction, but that you are connecting and I am revivifying the direction of your own God presence, uniquely and wholly your own God presence, for each life stream upon the earth. To some, that in itself would be miraculous to conceive. But knowing as you do how the Godhead is capable of expanding the flame of God, multiplying and having the God consciousness moving through the land specifically for each life stream, carrying what is needed at the given hour for each life stream to be able to receive into their upraised chalice. It would not be a stretch of anyone's imagination to understand how unique and holy is their own God presence and that divine will for their life stream, and how a cosmic being could augment the charge of that divine direction that would assist the outer vehicles to come into compliance, alignment, surrender to that will of God. Throughout the ages, there have been those cultures that I have been able to work with more than others, because there was a sense of closeness to God that was already in the forefront of their mind. Their hearts were predisposed to give the sacrifice and the devotion to God. They did not know of the different names, the different momentums, the different rays. Certainly, to have the great divine director on their lips was a thing not known. But you, blessed hearts, have at your disposal the ability to draw upon the teachings from this altar so that you might galvanize in the forefront of your consciousness the purity, the truth of cosmic law that will allow you to expand what you know. Allow your heart flame to unfurl the banners of your threefold flame, and have your holy communion with the presence of God that will assist you. It has been said that the days are numbered and shortened for the elect. Blessed hearts, those sincere students of this teaching are certainly the elect, and can number themselves among the saints of old that are calling forth the light of God, that are establishing within their own heart flame a magnet of the sacred fire that will excite and charge the very atmosphere of their associations, their comings and goings, their activities, with enough of the presence of God that it will set apart those life streams from the rude, crass world that has not invoked the name of God in their life, that is living a life of degradation of God. When you come in contact with those who have a clear mind, a sweet heart, a natural affinity to love God, a beauty that they hold within their eye for nature, for natural graces that imbue their every move, for a vibration that has harmony already there. You will begin to understand those life streams that are intended to be drawn into this teaching and instruction. Those life streams that your calls are assisting even in this hour. When we, the ascended and cosmic beings, come and release cosmic light to the earth, There is a particular purpose for that. There are certain dispensations, some of which we may reveal to you, and others we may not. But nonetheless, when those dispensations of light are released from this altar, the entire earth receives that charge. It is not merely for those at their particular altars, listening or watching, or will hear in the future. This is how the earth, in its fragile state, is held together for coming generations to be born into. The fabric of life for the coming dispensations of the 2,000-year cycle under the office of beloved Saint Germain, one of my greatest students of old. This platform is being prepared by you. You are the archetype of life stream that will set the example. You will establish your mark upon history. And surely there may be those in the future that will not know your individual names. They most certainly will know the mark that this body of God-conscious life streams, sons and daughters of God, have established upon the earth. In the coming days, it will be more evident to this particular body of students of the light the many dimensions that are at work in your life, that you should desire to partake of, for they have bearing on the outcome of this embodiment. The God direction that you are required to internalize, to carry forth all that your presence desires. This, blessed hearts, is an opportunity that is not often afforded to those while in embodiment. Many times it is only rehearsed in between embodiments, when the pressures of the outer fetters of human creation are not pressing in upon their chakras. But we are at work to set aside some of those pressures in these days so that you might receive and know what is the divine direction and will of God, what is the intent of your God presence, those Christ discriminations that you will begin to hone as the tools of your Christhood. And as you begin to climb the mountain with pick and shovel, with lattice ropes to follow, you can know that I, the great divine director, will be at the top, holding that ladder open for you, as a beacon of light that you may follow. Adhere to those subtleties in your life that remind you of things that must go into the flame, and then put them into the flame and let them go, so that they will not be part and parcel of the baggage that you carry along your journey. You would be quite astounded to see how large that bag would be that you would have to carry. And your load becomes lighter with each activity of transmutation that occurs, with each change that you imbue into these outer vehicles, with each increment of light that is allowed to stay and continue to accelerate and expand the threefold flame of your heart, so that when you are almost to the top of the mountain, you may plant your flag, and it will reveal the banner of your own Christhood. And it will be there for generations to see as they climb the mountain of their own experience to the ascension. Some will follow in the same footsteps that you have left. Others will make new footsteps, new attainment, new victory. And they too will plant their flag. And at the appointed hour, Serapis Bey will send forth the signal with the mighty I Am presence, having initiated the ascension cycle, that it is time to take the last steps into the ascension current. Blessed hearts, that is when you arrive home. That is when all of the effort, the striving, the sense of struggle, the many incarnations comes full circle, and the amalgamation of all of the momentum of God attainment that you have garnered has its day, and it floods forth in a burst of light, and a new ascended master stands in the firmament of God. That is what it's all about. That is the good news of the day. It has always been and always will be. This is why, blessed ones, so much effort goes into bringing the consciousness of the sons and daughters of God along the path, so that none are lost. And should there be one that drags their feet, we catch them up with some of our angels to bring them back into the momentum. And if there are those that find themselves still plagued with the human condition of rebellion or the lack of transmutation of the human ego, then we know at some point, either at nearer the close of this embodiment or another incarnation or two, that one will be home. None are forever lost. They just need to find their way home again. For many of you, you are nearing home. And that makes every joyful effort of my office fulfilled. Each time there is an ascension, the joy that explodes amongst the cosmic beings at the victory is like a great nova bursting forth in the universe. Let the divine direction that is offered to each one be that galvanizing rod of power that brings each one into the focus, the strength, and the protection of the will of God that is required. And let the love of God be that prime mover that brings all things in one's world into focus as divine intent of the heart of God and the fulfillment of the word of the I am. I, the great divine director, seal you in my consciousness and in the blue flame of the will of God for all time.